we need to start asking ourselves, what are we going to do if Trump does cancel elections?
Yeah. And Stuart, let me talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I wrote a piece yesterday with referring to that column that Timothy Snyder wrote, and also to some of Anne Applebaum's recent writing about Hungary and other things. I think we have to start from a place now where we assume that they're not going to allow a peaceful transfer of power in January of 2027, that they will try to prevent there from being a free and fair election, that they will invite hostile foreign powers in to help them stay in power, that they will use, this unprecedented corruption that we've seen to put unprecedented amounts of money into the political system, which is already, we saw this today with the Senate buy. I mean, to have a $350 million buy happen this early in the cycle is just kind of mind-boggling. And that's not even, the AI PAC or the other AI PAC or the Trump PAC or, the other organizations that will be spending to keep them in power. We have to just accept that this is the playing field of this election. This is the battleground of this election, and devise a plan to succeed in this. To your point that you were raising earlier, it's not to pretend that this isn't happening or to wish it away, because we're up against something that no party in American history has really been up against before, which is we're running against a political party that doesn't believe in rule of law and democracy, and that are not going to feel bound by traditional law and conventions of democracy in the way they execute what's going to come. I'm not scared by this. What I'm scared by is I would only be scared right now is if we weren't planning and there wasn't conversations about it, and we weren't laying the groundwork with the American people for all the fuckery that's to come, because I think people will believe that Trump is capable of all of this. Why? Because he did work with the Russians to influence the election in 2016. He did lead an insurrection and tried to overturn an election in 2021. These things have already happened. These aren't hypotheticals. We're seeing it play out with Orban in Hungary right now, which is an early test of the Trump-Putin alliance for what they may bring here, in November. What I think is different now is that at least for right now, in the more in the elite circles, the early adopters of this discourse, we're now openly talking about this, which is going to give us. We're not denying it. We're not pretending Russia, like these things aren't going to happen, right? Like immediate, that this is part of the political landscape. And I think you, as a strategist, and you've worked in campaigns, every election there's a new battlefield. You have to adapt to it. You have to learn and devise strategies to win in it. We have to accept that this is what's going to happen and continue, and not play off of an old playbook, because then we may be surprised again on election after the day after the election, like we have been in other elections. And I don't want that to happen again. And so I think what Timothy Snyder is challenging us, and Ruth Ben-Ghiat and Anne Applebaum, is for us to start talking to the American people, talking to journalists and influencers about what is going to happen here, and to normalize it so that when it starts to happen, we're not sort of having a debate about whether this is what's happening. This is going to be part of our election, whether we like it or not. And we need to start, socializing the idea that we're going to be operating in a new battlefield, and still be able to prevail and win in it. Because the truth is, as you know, there's limits to what ad dollars can get you when the wave is moving against you. Trump is completely capable of fucking everything up as he is executing well, because he screws up everything he touches, right? The assumption that they're going to mount some kind of Death Star, as opposed to the bedraggled, completely incoherent mess that he is not a given. And so we shouldn't assume and give him powers. I think the last thing I'll say to you about this, Stuart, and this is very consistent with the conversations we always have. When we talk about the election and the current politics, Trump is weak, the Republicans are struggling. When we talk about this election stuff, the cheating, all of a sudden he becomes strong again and we become weak. We can't fall into that, right? We have to continue to view him and these illicit tactics he's going to use as a signal of his weakness and his frailty and his Epstein desperation, and not as a sign of strength and power. And so I think that, but part of what Timothy Snyder and others are doing, they're doing a great service to us, is that we know from other countries that have been through this, that prophylactically explaining to the public about the tactics they're using, exposing them in real time, educating the public is an essential tool to prevent these tactics from being successful. And I think we're moving as a family into that posture more aggressively. I really do want to just acknowledge the work of people like Mark Elias and Norm Eisen and Skye Perriman and others and the attorneys general and the secretaries of state who've been on the front lines organizing against this. But now I think this has to become a whole of family project. Just like funding our candidates, winning the election, the traditional election has to be a whole family project. Helping expose the illicit tactics and defanging them also has to become now something that we learn and do together. I still think that we will come out of this on the right side of history, but not unless we understand the battlefield that we're on and develop a strategy to prevail in it like we do in any election, Stuart.